saw him at a meeting in the library the other day, and he seemed to be saying that he's like a surplus, if I understood him, like $600,000 or maybe more, I think he said, something in that neighborhood, because of unfilled positions. And
I thought they were filled. I thought those were filled. I
he
thought
told
we
me
got
that
it.
he's.
No, we've hired some police
Yeah.
officers this year, but there are still a number of unfilled
There are
positions.
Three unfilled.
three filled.
Right.
There was
Right
it
now we
five
have-
or six?
Right now, we have 5 vacancies.
5 vacancies, right, that's what I was
Well,
going to.
yes, and this is why there's been a change on the state level for the exam, correct, for
Mhm.
police officers, because there is a shortage at the moment. It's not just
Right.
Oneonta.
Well, what I was talking to him about was retention. And so it seems to me that if he has, whatever the number is, 600,000 or more because of unfilled positions, and retention is a problem, should a department head have the ability to use projected surpluses, if you will, to, for example, to help in retention? Now, I don't know how that would work, but is that possible?
It will only work with council's authorization. So, for example, if you wanted to fund a certain program that would help with retention, it would need council approval to do so.
So the chief could, or the department head, not to put it on a
He could put
specific
the request to
department.
Greg would bring it to the finance committee to consider, and the finance committee would take it to council.
And what could a retention program look like?
Well, there's different ones that you could look like, that you could enact, depending on what the preferences are for the department itself. So if it, say, Greg may throw out the change in retirement plan.
Yeah, I think that's something that the chief is preparing to present as part of his budget request and that discussion, so we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but you can share the general concept.
Yeah. So right now, the police department, their retirement plan is what is called 384D. And so that maxes out after a certain number of years of service.
Mhm.
And if they work longer than the 20-year period, they really don't get any additional benefit in their retirement pension. If we were to change them from the 384D to the 384E plan, then it could incentivize them to work longer years because their pension benefit would be greater. But to do that, there is past service costs that would have to be paid to the retirement system because in essence, their pension plan is then larger.
Yeah.
It is the benefit that the fire department has, by the way, the police department does not have.
Right, I don't want to spend all night on this, but I have one more question. So when I was talking to the police chief, he said, he was talking about the retirement, and I understand that. So it might be harder to incentivize the senior members to stay. It would be possible, but it might be harder. But the younger firefighters, he was talking about, they're thinking about retirement when they're 25. I'm not going to say that's nonsense, but when I was 25, I thought about job stability, hours, and money, and then advancement.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that, I could be wrong, but I think it might have been just the opposite. I think that he thinks that if we switch the retirement plan, it will incentivize the long-term employees to stay longer, because then they'll know their pension will be more beneficial to them.
Right.
And with the younger employees, they may not be thinking about that yet.
Right, but I think there's some issue about retention of not firefighters, but police officers.
Correct, yeah.
So I would hope that we can figure out some sort of way of incentivizing the young officers to stay. And I don't know what that is, but like in a private company, they give you more money, right? No, I don't even know if that's legal in
Yeah,
a
but I
municipality.
but I think there's different ideas being discussed and researched, and I think once those ideas are formalized, as saying that it's a good recommendation, we'll be bringing that to council for consideration.
Thank you very much.
Don, it sounds to me like you've come up with a pretty good idea for a strategic plan action item.
Oh, yeah.
There
Determine determine a
right.
plan to incentivize retention in the police department.
Could you add that?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll say that's from Don.
Give
Can I ask
credit.
a question? Can we go back to the fire thing here for a minute? Please.
The overtime,
Yes.
yes.
If we take that 73 out of the training, the fire department's not gonna have any money to send anybody to training.
Oh, no, that's not true. It's just that we are paying overtime for the training costs. It's just that our system right now cannot separate it from one code to another.
Okay.
So we're blending them.
Okay.
Yeah.
We budget the two different codes, but our payroll system doesn't do it.
So there's no Tyler technology yet. That's what it means.
Now I'm on the same page. I'm picturing something.
So that's why I said you could take that out, because we could just put that on the consent
Yeah,
agenda, but it's
yeah.
this bigger question about the, yeah,
Okay.
that we could have as a discussion item. Yeah. So we can do that. Okay, so, if I could have us move along to the code enforcement office. And first, there's a staffing appointment, and then a review of the department in terms of its organizational structure here.
Yes, as we know, Stephen Yearly had his last day yesterday as code enforcement officer with us. The first item here is a recommendation to hire John Hester. He's our deputy code enforcement officer now. He's been with the city for over 18 years, and my recommendation is to hire him as our next code enforcement officer.
Attention.
Retention. Yes. John, I mentioned here in the notes for considerations section, he shared an example with me. He's gone to trainings, code enforcement trainings, and oftentimes they'll ask, raise your hand, how long you've been here. You've been here 5 years, and everyone raise your hand, or some people do 10 years. By the time you get to 15 years plus, there's 4 or 5 people in the room of 100 that raise their hand, because it seems to be a career that oftentimes people come into it. They didn't go to college to become a code enforcement officer, but they find their way into it. Maybe they don't stay for that long. So my point is, and then I put in here a reference to a NICOM. There's actually a salary survey that they do every year that also includes how long has each city that responds, how long have they had a particular employee in that position. So when I look at the average of how long a code enforcement officer's been there, it's under 7 years. Over probably 25 cities responded. So I think it's really hard to value having that longevity from someone already like John, who's had a good career here and has a lot more to go. If we can retain him in this position and keep solidify the code office for years to come, I think that's really important for the city.
Does he get a raise?
Yeah, it would be a raise. Yep, the salary I'm recommending is $83,000 base salary. He would get whatever he's getting now for his longevity on top of that. 18 years, he's probably at $3,600
Oh, geez.
per year.
Yeah, probably about that.
It goes up $200 a year until you get to 20 years, then you're at $4,000 per year, and then it's capped for the admin.
What is
So
the
we just-
salary range for that?
That is 85. Just a moment, I'll tell you the exact range currently.
Sorry, I should have reached me.
No, I'm curious about the next, I'd like to get to the next
Sure.
code enforcement.
The range for 2025 is 77,500 to 86,500.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Not at all. No. I just was curious, so we just have to approve that?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, does that all sound,
The only question I had about code enforcement is Steve is gonna have a part-time job. Is that okay?
That's the next.
That's our next
that's the next
discussion.
one. This is just to make sure we're okay with
Yes.
with the new hire,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So our next item then, if we're move on from the, we'll talk now about the organizational structure here of the department. And there's a couple things. So the first is that, the proposed, getting rid of the deputy and including a maintenance worker, student worker, and a planning and zoning specialist.
Yeah, do you want me to kind of explain the differences? So historically, there was a code enforcement officer and different titles, perhaps a couple of code inspectors, and there might have been a planning type of ordinance inspector. And we've had John Hester in a deputy code enforcement officer position. I think it was 2020, he was promoted to that. And that was in part, a good advantage to that was, one, he had the experience. I mean, he could have been the code enforcement officer before now. He has that knowledge and experience already. And so he's able and capable of running the office and assisting with the daily operations of it. And then when we had assigned a stipend to Stephen Yearly to also assist and technically fill a role as Deputy Community Development Director, so we were asking him to use his fairly unique talents, being a planner, certified planner, as well as code enforcement officer, to help out in Judy's department. Understanding that's going to take his focus a little bit away from code enforcement, it made a lot of sense to have a deputy code enforcement officer. So those two things, his experience, his ability to do it, the fact that it made sense with Stephen helping out elsewhere as well. So now going back to, if we promote John, we don't think right now that a deputy code enforcement officer is needed, but we do think another position needs to be filled, and we would recommend that be a entry-level, a code enforcement inspector. So we'd hire a new code inspector. They would come in a little bit lower on the admin manual salary grades. I can tell you what that range is. 48.5 to 56.5
For the inspector?
for the inspector.
48?
So that would, yes, 48.5. So that would be a new position we'd have to recruit for and fill. The second, this is the second piece. The third piece would be establishing a new part-time position, and this is something that I'm working on a job description now that with our HR specialist, principal HR specialist, Dave Corey, and as well as I would work with John on this as well to make sure that it fits our needs. And this would have to go through the Civil Service Commission to be approved, to be a title that we can fill. And then it would also eventually have to go back to the council to be adopted into our part-time wage schedule at a certain rate. And I have a recommendation here that I think it would be appropriate to put it at the part-time 10 level, which is $35 per hour. So I don't have the job description to share with you tonight. That would come probably the next finance meeting. But I would like to just, I guess I'm seeking approval to pursue this structure for the department. So the reason to have a part-time position like this, I mean, we have the opportunity, as Don mentioned,
Yeah.
Stephen is interested and would be willing to do a part-time role like this in addition to his full-time job that he's taken. It would vary week to week and month to month, depending on what's going on, up to 10 hours a week. But he would be attending the Planning and Zoning Board and Landmarks Commission meetings as the city's representative. So if we have an application for one of those boards that comes in, site plan review, whatever it may be, he would be receiving that from the code office, reviewing it, preparing the memo, and doing all the steps that he does now in that piece of his role. But just that, he wouldn't be doing code enforcement, inspection, he wouldn't be supervising the office or anyone. So it'd be a much smaller role, more focused, but I think it would be very helpful to the office to have someone doing that. Allow John, again, without a deputy, to focus entirely on code enforcement.
I don't know the people involved. I'll admit Steve, but I don't know the other people. But I can, sometimes an example helps, and I'll use an example myself. I was one time appointed news director of a television station, but my predecessor had a part-time job still with the organization, with the police department. It was a disaster because he wasn't giving up his authority, and he was only part-time, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do as the new boss. It was terrible. And I mean, I don't know if John and Steve would have that similar problem, but if Steve is gonna continue to work for the city, I don't think it should have anything to do with the code enforcement office. I just think John is gonna be the boss, and he doesn't want the old guy, looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, I won't speak, I would like to not speak for John. However, I have spoken with him about this, and him and Stephen had a great relationship, working relationship, and he's comforted by the fact, or the idea, that Stephen would still be around to be able to handle this piece of the job duties. Also, this wouldn't be a position where you would have an office at City Hall. It would be mostly a remote work, and him coming into
The old guy didn't have a desk either, but
No,
I
but
don't think it's a good idea.
this is going to meetings, it's just going to these evening meetings, that's really, right, that's the task.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
separate from the code enforcement inspections
it's not
and
really- it's not
operation
really
of the
code
office.
enforcement.
It's sort of a
He's-
separate piece.
Yeah, he's really there as, not as code enforcement, he's there as I mean, he's there in terms of his expertise around zoning, but he's there as a planner.
Well, could we, could the full council talk about that?
Sure, I mean-
I just think it might cause a problem, again, I can't predict that, but it's just, when the boss leaves, the boss should leave. That's my view.
Just to give some perspective as to what the ask is of council now, the one piece is appointing John to the new role, and the other piece is appointing a structure. It's not to appoint Stephen to that role, obviously I'm sharing that with you because I don't want to appear as though I'm hiding something. He would be the one that would be most applicable to that role. If we didn't hire him, we would look for someone else, or it may end up being that if we can't find the right person for a part-time role, it would be a consultant role, and then it wouldn't be a position, it would be a consultant. But if the council thought the structure made sense, that's the initial
Yes,
question,
that's
then
the question.
it would be up to me to
See, if
decide.
it's in a different department,
Leave
how to
Stephen-
go about
no
filling
problem.
it.
Leave Stephen out. I think what Greg's point is, should be well taken, which is that leave the personalities behind here,
Mhm.
in the sense that we're really just talking about organizational change, structural change within the department.
Mhm.
So leave the Stephen piece
Okay.
behind.
So, I think we all agreed on appointing John, so I think
Yes.
that's good.
Yes.
I think what you should do, Greg, is see if the Civil Service Commission would sign off on it first, and then come back to us and see if with the structure, if that's something that,
Yeah, the civil,
because if the Civil Service said, yeah, no, we don't really want to do this, or we can't really write this kind of title to make it really make sense, then I think it's kind of for not to try to do that type of structure.
yeah, I think,
And then the appointment of the person later is later, that's not, and thank you for being honest, but I think that's kind of muddying the waters on, but I think it's, here's
Yes.
what we're doing, we're gonna take this out because we wanna try to achieve this, if Civil Service will sign off on it, and if we can write a job description, I'll make it.
Yeah, I think that's what we
I
should
think
start.
that's,
yes, you may have noticed this is the first time I've mentioned anyone's name when
Yeah.
we're talking about a structure. It's only for the sake of transparency, because oftentimes that's brought up, and I don't want people to think.
Oh, of course.
well, yeah, that's why I said,
Yeah.
thanks for being
Doing all
honest, I
these-
just,
But it does money
Right.
things up into thinking. The question that's being asked is, do we want a structure where there's a part-time employee?
Right.
And I've suggested what the title would be, and that would need to be approved by a civil service commission. But would we want a part-time role that would help do the planning and zoning review and assistance?
But so this part of John's job as a director of code enforcement is going to be to go to zoning board meetings.
Not if we have this position to be delegated to.
That's where I'm gonna start getting hung up, because I think as the director of codes and sitting in the zoning board and stuff like that, I think the code enforcement officer is the primary person that should be speaking for what's trying to go through. Because ultimately that department is the one that's going to have to carry out what zoning or planning does, says, et cetera, and to direct the people to do that. That's my concern going to that type of structure. Not saying I can't be persuaded, that's just my concern in looking at it, of trying to take it out. And then if you said, like, if it wasn't this person, we went to consult, I sure as heck don't want a consultant to sit there at that meeting and try to, I don't think consultants have as much invested as a person in actually. So, those are
Yeah.
my concerns, I just wanted to bring them up. That's-
Yeah. Understood.
So, how should we move forward with this, in terms of, should we bring this forward to the council as an organizational change?
I would see if the civil, so if they can write
Mhm.
a description and
So
the
should we,
Civil Service Commission would sign off on
so are you suggesting we don't do anything? Until Greg finds this piece of information out?
it. Yeah, that's what I would do.
I have no doubt really that a title can be developed that the Civil Service Commission will approve. But what exactly that job description says in it is really just the piece that the Civil Service Commission has done. I guess the question, I think it's either way. I don't think the cart's before the horse either way.
Right, I
Between the
just would be more
description.
comfortable vote on it after I see that job description in the civil service, and yes, we can do this, here's the job description, now here's the organizational chart, here's what we expect from this one, and this is how we're doing it. That's just the comfort factor.
Who was doing this work before?
Stephen?
See, that goes back to my point. The new boss should be doing that, it seems to me. You're cutting his legs off.
I think I can say that, you know, John's comfort with an interest in the position is increased by having this type of position available to assist. It's having that additional support as opposed to having the prospect of 5 meetings potentially, depending on the week, a lot of night meetings. It is a lot on one person, and it was on Stephen as well. So I think there's an aspect to that is an advantage, I think, in the eyes of any
Well,
candidate.
Again, I don't want to get down into the management of that level. I just voice my concern, and then whatever the council decides, we'll do.
Ginny?
If I'm allowed just to add my 2 cents, and hopefully it
Sure.
will help Scott help make his decision. I just want to point out, and this is from my perspective of what I've seen Stephen do in the code enforcement office, and also knowing his credentials. No one in New York State holds the same credentials as Stephen in code and planning and zoning. For us to have him as a resource for the city of Oneonta, I think would be fantastic. If we're able to keep that coordination, and also the work coordination between John Hester and Stephen, I think is, they've always worked very well together, and I think that respect between the 2 roles would still be going forth. And the reason I say that is only because of the conversations I personally had with them. So I just want you to know that from my perspective, for what it's worth, I think it would behoove the city tremendously to consider this structure and to benefit from all of the knowledge and experience that Stephen can offer.
But back to my point,
No,
I'm
I
taking
know.
the person out of this, and I'm looking at the structure, I'm looking at and being that I was on here and being on here. Because right now, if you put his name in the mix, I'm gonna be down, I'm not gonna sit there and say yes to it. I wanna get the structure done
No,
first.
I understand.
See what the list of or not, the list of what they come up with from our HR and civil service, and then make the decision from there to go, and then say, how are we going to do this?
No, I understand. I just
So-
wanted to add my 2 cents. Thank you.
No, I understand.
I have to say, I think this is great. I think the city, to have a planning specialist would be wonderful. Someone specific to planning. I think that would be really fantastic.
I agree.
Taking the person out of it.
Do we
you
have
know,
a planning, a
personnel.
separate planning department?
No. So I think, having even just ideally somebody full-time, but part-time is a great start. So I think it's great. I
Okay.
think it's a great addition and a great way to eventually, potentially use this, former code enforcement director now with a new orientation.
But I know I'm gonna forewarn you on a question I'll ask, and when you do bring Steve's name forward, when we get this done.
Just be clear, if the council approved the structure, then as a part-time position that doesn't go through council, it's just appointed, which is, again, part of why I mentioned it, because I don't want.
Well, I just wanna ask this out here, being that he's still gonna be with the state and zoning, I can see a bunch of conflicts where he may not be able to do anything for us.
He's checked with the state, as far as conflicts of interest, he certainly wouldn't be advising the city or the planning commission or zoning board, he's working on any projects that are funded by the state. That is something that he could not be involved in. So otherwise, they've approved his ability to work with municipalities.
I mean, I think the other question this begs is, why would you want to sit through this? But hey,
Can't answer that question.
what should we do in terms of moving this forward? Can we bring this forward as an organizational change? I'm comfortable doing that.
I'm not, so.
So, no, I mean, in terms of like having a discussion to council, or do you wanna wait?
I like to wait and have them do the job description and
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Okay, so you're comfortable with potentially moving forward,
Right.
code enforcement officer appointment, but not moving anything forward as to the structure?
Well, I think it sounds like there just needs to be maybe a synthesis of HR and civil service information.
Right, Civil Service Commission meets the 24th of September, I believe, or is it the 17th? One of the two. 24th. So we would, presumably they would be approving a title at that meeting. And
Yeah.
be able to bring that back through finance,
Yeah.
back to council.
Okay.
So whether we end up with a code enforcement officer in the meantime, or everything kind of holds off to see how the structure works out, I'll have to determine that.
Okay. This is a hard job.
Can I ask one?
I thought you said you didn't have much to say.
Is there
I
a
was
possi-
wrong.
Is
Again.
there a possibility that John would refuse the job if it wasn't restructured, if the office wasn't restructured?
I can't go
I
off
will-
of what it is when I
I
make
would
decisions.
just repeat what I just said, that I will have to determine whether moving forward with the code enforcement officer appointment on Tuesday, or if that needs to wait with the structure discussion as well.
But that is what it is.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. It is.
Okay, next one. So we're holding off on that, just to be clear about it? Yep. Yes? everyone?
yes,
Okay. So our next item is to provide, it's an affiliation agreement. And this is just to give authorization to execute the field internship with SUNY Cobleskill. And this is with the fire department specifically.
Yes.
Yep. It's great use of expertise.
Can't say I can't talk anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
This
we
is
I mean,
actually- it's been a fun meeting though, it really
It's
has.
like,
It's been very good.
I mean, this is
what it's
like
supposed to be.
record length here.
At least we're having a good time. I don't know about, they look like they're getting tired sitting.
Everyone else, I know, sorry, we're wrapping up. Right-of-way encroachment license agreement, this is for the newspaper, this is for the news rack. It's a very formal way of saying it's just gonna be a news rack on the street, correct?
Yes.
Yes,
I think we should do
They
it.
still do
Yeah.
those?
yes, apparently.
I didn't realize they still did those.
Well, they don't
I
give
was-
away
I was
anything
actually
when they
surprised
buy
too.
it, and there's nowhere to buy it that I know of, so
Oh, okay.
this will be an opportunity to be.
It's because I honestly, I thought, oh, hometown, oh yeah, it was all online. I thought it was all, Zico.com.
There is a print version.
And there is a print version, apparently, and news can still get it on the news racks.
Well, not now, but this will make it available.
Right.
The Green Earth might have copies. I'm not
Uh-huh.
sure.
Okay, we have the bench and plaque donation policy, and this was for an updated policy for a new bench, refurbished,
Yeah, so we've had this policy in place for at least a decade, if not more. It's been updated most recently in 2020. We haven't had a request for a memorial bench and plaque donation in a while. We had some interest this summer, and then more recently we had another person reach out who wants to submit an application for one of these. Currently, the policy lists in it specific dollar amounts for a bench and or plaque donation. There's an option to purchase a new bench, there's an option to add a plaque to that bench, and there's an option to refurbish an existing bench. The application in front of us now that we have is for a new bench with a plaque to be placed somewhere in Wilbur Park. The process in the policy is for that to be approved by both the Public Works Director and the Parks and Recreation Commission, and then it can be installed at the cost of using the money that's provided by the donor. The issue is that those numbers are from 2020, haven't been updated, and now we have an application in order to go forward with this, we'll take a little bit of a loss because those materials have increased in cost since 2020. So we'd like to update the policy to just read that we're gonna evaluate the cost, determine the cost at the time of application, and inform the applicant what the costs are, so that we are always covering our costs. We won't be making a profit. We won't be losing any money
So
moving
that's why
forward.
there's no figures here, it'd be whatever the
Yeah,
cost is.
we may include, you know, if we update the application, we may include something like the typical cost or most recent estimate is this, but it'll be updated to be exact at the time of application. So it gives someone an idea of what they're getting into, but then when they apply, we'll then advise what the actual cost will be. They can determine whether to move forward, and then it would go through the same process, which if Chris approves of the location, and then the Parks and Rec Commission reviews the location as well, and they also review the tax that they're proposing for the plat to make sure it's not anything inappropriate, and then it doesn't have to go back to council at that point. It just happens. There's a little more detail, obviously, in the application or the policy that you could read about. We're not looking to make any changes otherwise.
What does a bench cost now, would be like?
I put that in here.
Well, $511 for two of
Okay.
Is it two?
Pricing was off, we'll just say.
There's the circle bench, that's not the one.
Oh, no.
them. You didn't
Is
think
it
I was listening,
2,000?
Chris.
Is it 2,000?
We have 2,500 in the policy currently for a new bench. I think it was 3,300, something like
Up
that
now,
now.
up to it?
Maybe
It's
more.
an increase.
So they have to buy the bench to, like, they give you the money, you have to go out and buy the
No,
bench.
we
They don't buy the
decide.
bench and
Correct.
give it to us.
We have a certain bench that specifies that they all match, and we buy it and install it.
It's 10,000
They pay us.
Central Park.
Okay.
Same with the
This is
plaques.
Central
Park, it's the-
That's all standard.
Do we make these plaques?
No, Alpine.
The neighborhood cost.
Maybe
That one is by the Nakati Lounge.
Relax, read, talk, and enjoy.
The owner.
I don't know. I would
Well,
love
it's only
one.
$10,000.
I would love one. Oh, two of them, right, I know. I would love to have them.
I
Nice
should probably go
bench.
home and just sleep
Because
before I
people
get
like-
myself in trouble. I'm good with it.
Yeah, me too.
That's fine,
Yeah. I think we should move that to consent.
sure.
Yes, absolutely.
And then our last, no, it's not our last, bite my tongue. Our second to last is the fee schedule for Water Street. And the recommendation is 100 regardless of the day of week per closure.
Do you lose money on that?
We had discussed, was it last year, that we adjusted and added the Saturday and Sunday
Yeah.
fees to cover the costs of having overtime on those days to bring DPW to close the street, so a Main Street parade or something like that. In
Right.
this case, with Water Street, the way it's designed now, there's just a gate there, so if we have our initial meeting with the event organizer and everything's in place, we give them the access to unlock and
So they would
open
do
and
the
close
gate.
the gate themselves, so that
Yeah.
there would be no DPW overtime incurred.
Okay.
We still left the same $100 fee that we charge for Monday through Friday, which is when DPW is available to close streets, because as we've talked with other fees, I think it's the parks event permit, the idea was we don't wanna charge nothing, and,
Right.
you know, we still have some administrative time that goes into it, we're still.
They
we're
never
still
had
cost-
those events on Water Street this summer, did they?
They haven't started, I don't know when or if they will this year, because the organizer wanted to wait until the street was completely finished and due to the issues with delays on the lighting being
The
installed,
lighting
and
is
the
in
fence
place.
hasn't been installed yet. I think they wanted to wait till it's really, you know, as nice looking as it's going to be when it's completely finished. So I think that's why it hasn't gone forward. I guess the idea is still there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
Concur.
Yeah. Consent, then we'll move it? Okay, and if someone wants to talk about it, we can talk about it. Okay. So, we have a city assessor appointment.
Yes, and thank you,
Carrie Slusher.
Carrie, for reminding me of the timing of this. We have, the state real property tax law, section 310, sets the term for sole appointed assessors. So if the city appoints assessor to be the only assessor, as we have, it has to follow the state's terms, which is a 6-year term, and it ends on September 30th, 2025. So the next term would be October 1st, Shecker was appointed by the council in April, back when we learned that the county would no longer be able to provide assessor services to the city through the contract that we had with them. So we've entered an employment agreement with Hank to be our assessor since then. He's willing to continue serving. I made a note here, obviously 6 years is a long contract, but there's a normal termination clause if either party wants to terminate the agreement for whatever reason. Just providing 60 days notice is what's required, and then we would be able to appoint another assessor that would, their term would only be able to go through September 30th of 2031 as well. Similar to what we did in this case. He had a few months with us, now we need to reappoint him.
So it's a reappointment, yeah, as you say, and then
Yes.
residency requirement would be waived, and then execute the agreement for successor services.
So essentially, what you would see is a copy and paste with the dates changed of the motion that the council passed in April. Carrie,
So
is there anything I'm missing that I didn't get in that form?
I don't wanna get in too much into the weeds, but, so, the county just stopped doing this as a,
Yeah, they had some staffing changes,
Uh-huh.
and then they sent a letter saying that they didn't have the capacity to
I see.
be able to do it anymore, and weren't planning to add that capacity again. So,
okay.
we were fortunate at the time that, Hank had retired last year and was willing to do this for us on a part-time basis.
As part-time. Okay.
Well, we didn't quite hit every letter,
This is because last time we met, it was 20 minutes, 25 minutes. This is why.
This is Greg's.
Jinxed it.
This is Greg's fault.
Is there anything you need from us for this, other than we'll just,
I
I
think it's
think
good.
we're good, we'll just approve it as a council? Yeah. Okay. And then that's it? Are there any surprises? Any additions?
I don't have any others. I mean, one that I can say that I didn't bring this time, we'll bring the next time, is an overview of the current status of the Market Street Transportation Improvements budget,
Great.
overall budget,
Great.
and we want you to consider whether or not you'd like to paint
Oh, right.
the wall.
Yes.
We have an estimate on that, but I wanted to we could have talked about that tonight, I'm talking about it now.
Yeah.
We could have had,
Mhm.
I'd like to have the overall budget picture, so you can see that. It's not a necessary thing, it's an aesthetic thing, and,
Right.
in order, the retaining wall along Water Street, it's at the parking lot level. The old parking garage wall.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
I'm
also-
sorry, I'm over at 27 Market.
Oh.
Why are
No,
we painting
across
that
the
wall?
street, no.
We're across the street.
It
Yeah,
could
also
be
be
a
the
site,
new-
it could be a site eventually for public art,
Yeah.
artist work, that's.
By
Just
painting the
kinda
base
get it,
coat, it
prime
would
it,
give
right.
them a good surface to
Right.
be able to paint over. But
How much is it to paint?
$68,000. Judy has some feedback from the Public Arts Commission, and she met with
Wow.
last night.
Yeah, I went to the meeting last night and told them about the council's decision to give them the 30,000.
Yeah,
And there's potential for an annual amount as well, but that's not confirmed until the
Right.
council decides. And they were super, super excited.
yeah.
And I did my pitch for the Market Street project because that's near and dear to my heart, and I've been working on that for so long. And they want to continue with the mural concept, so I was really excited about that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't understand, why do we have to paint the wall?
I think it's because it could be, it's seen as a prime location, and it could be are you saying not for public art, but for the primer?
Right. If somebody wants to, if we say, okay, you're gonna do
It's
this section, you're gonna have a work of art, then we have to prime it.
It's seal,
Prime
it's
it.
it's
It's a
seals,
primer / sealer.
it's a seal for the concrete wall.
It
So it
just-
allows more options for murals and how to, that it'll keep murals on there longer. It'll
But
protect
couldn't we do that when someone is ready to, they say, okay, we wanna do a mural here, so we'll prime that spot.
We wouldn't have the construction crew there or the.
So that's what I wanna ask.
Yeah.
Because it's state prevailing wage, which is killing us. Can we do it in-house, Chris? We can do the paint, we can even buy you a paint sprayer.
We still have to bid it.
I mean, we have a lot of obligations.
I
do they have the expertise to know what to do?
Not the same expertise.
Level.
Yeah,
And isn't there's rust?
I'd caution against our guys.
There's rust in the wall too, right?
The rust will continue, that will, but the wall could be colored, to hide the rust, so they did pick last night, if we do this, the Public Art Commission picked a color called Adobe, which is a rust color. So it would look kind of like a brick wall from a distance, so even if
It
they
would add
didn't-
color anyway to that
even if they
space.
didn't do a mural, you'd have,
Yeah.
instead of that wall, you'd have,
Yeah.
which is pretty ugly,
Yep,
you'd have a blended in
Yeah.
wall that with the buildings behind it.
yeah, yeah.
How much is this?
60,000.
It seems to me if somebody, a muralist wants to paint the wall, they can prime the wall themselves.
It's not the same as what this coating is.
What's that?
It's not the same as what this coating is, my understanding.
Well, they would do that too. They would
Well-
do that section and then, it's a lot of money.
Can I ask a
A lot of
question?
it, a lot of it is material cost. So just as an example, my guys are looking to paint the memorial walkway next year, $30,000 just for the paint.
And also, let's take the mural out of it, say it never got any artwork on it at all. Would we have to paint it to preserve the concrete?
Yes.
So think of it as that you're preserving the investment that we have just put into that area.
That's right.
We're not painting the sidewalks and that's concrete.
We probably
Yeah.
ought to, because it actually helps with the salt. We should be sealing our
That's right,
sidewalks.
absolutely.
Because it actually helps with the salt.
Huge.
Right, but we're not putting salt on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things we cut because we can never afford it, but we really should be going down through sealing the sidewalks.
The little difference between a sidewalk and the wall is the wall is structural. It needs to stand for 50 to 100 years. We want it to last and as long as it possibly can. And the other thing is, it's an existing wall that was covered by parking structures. Now it's exposed where it wasn't before.
That's what I was thinking, that you got materials that haven't necessarily been exposed, to air and light in the way that they are now.
Right.
You'd have to protect them.
So if you need any more.
No, that was.
We're having next week's discussion, aren't we? Or
We
next-
are.
Next meeting's discussion.
I don't know, right? I'm not an expert on these things. It seems like a lot of money.
Yeah,
It is
but it's also an investment
But
in
it's
investment.
necessary.
Yeah.
necessary.
I still think we can do it in-house.
I mean, just to, if you did something in phases, whether it's with a contractor or in-house, like obviously if you do a contract and you do it all now, it's gonna be less expensive than if you do it in phases and have it mobilized multiple times. But you can do it in bites where it's not all done at once, but eventually you get there. You could take the same approach if we were able to do it in-house, which I'm not suggesting. That would be up to Chris to determine if that's even something we want to take on. I know you've said you cautioned against it, so that's all I'm
It'll
saying.
He didn't say
resources
no,
away from
he said
something
caution.
Right.
It'll take those resources away from something else. Something else
Exactly.
will have to suffer.
Everything you do takes away from something else.
That's right.
You can't do.
I know,
It-
I know all too well.
The dog park, not getting mowed, for example.
That's a problem?
It's a good point.
It's
Just kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to adjourn if there's no one to object.
I object, I object.
Thank